Hello and welcome to this special edition of Inside 11Alive News Investigates. I'm consumer investigative reporter Liza Lucas. Thank you so much for joining us. Now for the next 30 minutes, we are bringing you investigations you will only see right here on 11Alive. From stories prompting big changes at a local hospital to uncovering a major hurdle in accessing affordable housing, and why a mother is suing the Georgia Department of Public Safety over a high-speed chase. But first, we are taking a deeper look at how millions of dollars in food benefits were stolen and how Georgians are impacted. It's part of being mom.
I'm in the kitchen at least 10 hours a day.
For Deborah Jordan, food budgeting only goes so far.
Our grocery bill is actually $2,500 a month, and I get $1,536 through SNAP. So it does supplement a big chunk of it, which I'm very grateful for.
But a check on her December deposit delivered shock instead.
And I called it, and it said $0 balance.
On the same day her benefits loaded, she could see the money wiped out by thieves in Pennsylvania in a span of only 2 minutes.
I was like, how did they do that?
The card data is easy to skim with hidden devices and clone onto fake cards. A USDA congressional report also noting thieves use bots to exploit online vulnerabilities to find information like card balances and PINs. And the FBI warns criminals cash out fast through bulk purchases. Deborah's card was hit right before Christmas.
I just tried to create the experiences around, like, let's make some cookies or something.
The thefts are adding up. The Georgia Department of Human Services tells me that the state's used more than $13 million in federal funding to replace stolen SNAP benefits to date. The USDA data shows that nationwide, that number is more than $220 million. Because Congress did not renew federal replacement funding past December 20th, 2024, anyone in Georgia whose benefits were stolen after that is out the money. Behind the scenes, there is a push to secure cards. A USDA letter sent to governors urges states to transition to SNAP chip cards as soon as feasible. The then USDA secretary writing the cost would be a state expense, but reimbursed by the federal government at 50%. But there's no federal requirement for any of that. 11Alive News Investigates asked the Georgia Department of Human Services about the expense and was told it could vary. DHS sharing that while chip technology is one method the department is exploring, it is not the only one. Adding customer education, enhanced card security features, and more aggressive investigation capabilities are also part of the plan. The agency previously also telling 11Alive chip changes aren't possible yet, as most vendors' EBT point-of-sale systems do not support chipped cards. In the interim, the state rolled out a new feature to lock SNAP cards between use. Johnson and others, though, tell us a lot of families still don't know about it.
Go ahead and lock your card, change your PIN, because they are on it. These scammers are not playing.
Liza Lucas, 11Alive News Investigates. And as you can see, losing those benefits can be absolutely devastating for some families. Now, when we asked who is behind these thefts, the USDA Office of Inspector General told us that it totally ranges from a single individual in some cases to sometimes very organized schemes with lots of players or groups. And because benefits being stolen continues to be a statewide and national issue, we're going to continue to follow the money and this story in the coming months. And speaking of money, clients across the country tell 11Alive News Investigates they're on the brink of bankruptcy after they say an Atlanta-based business failed to help them open their beauty supply stores. Senior investigative reporter Rebecca Lindstrom and the team have been following the story for more than a year and now highlight one woman taking her fight to court.
Emails, Zoom interviews, and YouTube videos pleading for help.
Horrific, devastating, life-changing experience.
I actually was Googling, so I clicked on your story and was like, wow, that's me.
How many of you have spent more than $50,000?
Kenetha Ferguson joins more than 24 clients from across the country that have now reached out to 11Alive News Investigates. They all say they paid Atlanta-based Beauty Supply Institute, or BSI, to help them open a store. They would find the space and start paying rent, but then the products wouldn't show up, at least not in the time frame they expected, causing a cascade of financial problems. That's because BSI won't set up the store until everything has arrived.
No deadline on the contract. There's no date. In fact, there's no dates for anything on the contract outside the date that you sign. That's the only date.
BSI founder Devin Robinson has repeatedly declined to talk on camera, but in a written statement said some of the clients complaining do have their store open. Ferguson will admit she is one of them, but she says that's only because after renting a space for 9 months, she gave up waiting and borrowed more money to finish the job herself.
Have you had any problem receiving any of your products that you have gone out personally to order?
Not at all.
There's
No
been
delays,
no backlogs.
no nothing.
Nothing is what clients say they are getting from BSI. The company's storefront in Mapleton is closed, and its website warns phone lines are down. But this internal memo claims that BSI is changing the way it does business, impacting 2 of the main problems that led to complaints. It will now commit to an actual store completion date, and clients will now buy their products directly from the vendor.
Still, none of the 24 clients 11Alive News surveyed say that has changed anything for them. And despite complaints to Georgia's Consumer Protection Division and the U.S. Federal Trade Commission, neither has offered to help.
There's a lot of challenges.
We asked Mercer Law Professor Caleb Byers why police, prosecutors, and regulatory agencies won't get involved.
It can be very difficult to prove that the company actually was committing some type of fraud, withholding money intentionally.
Byers is not involved in any of the BSI cases. While Ferguson feels her money was stolen, BSI says it has done nothing wrong. It blames back orders, health problems, and exploding growth for the service delays. It says there are 116 store owners across the country who owe it more than $7 million. Byers says law enforcement doesn't always have the resources to sort out the truth, leaving clients only one choice: a civil lawsuit.
If you're not fulfilling your services, I want my money back. Kind of simple.
In Atlanta, Rebecca Lindstrom, 11Alive News investigates.
Now, Rebecca and the 11Alive News Investigates team will continue following the federal lawsuit to see where it lands, as well as keep an eye out for more lawsuits filed by other BSI clients. Now, up next, major changes following an 11Alive News investigation.
And he started dragging me, punching me in my face and my head over and over and over again.
After the break, we speak with Atlanta VA leaders about what's changing and how they plan to keep employees safe after we learned several nurses have been attacked on the job. Welcome back, and thanks for joining 11Alive News Investigates. Our next story showcases the power of whistleblowing. It all began late last year when investigative reporter Savannah Levin sat down with an Atlanta VA nurse who said she was attacked at work. Less than 3 months later, the hospital system began making changes.
We want to restore trust.
Dr. Kevin Miller, Chief Mental Health Nurse for the Atlanta VA, says the agency is implementing new policies and technology to better protect patients and staff.
This is the bruises I had.
It comes after we share the story of Letitia Shannon, a mental health nurse who was attacked by a patient in July.
And he started dragging me, punching me in my face and my head over and over and over again.
I personally held several safety forums within the last couple of weeks. Immediately following the event, sat down with staff, met with them one-on-one to find out what could we do better, how can we make them feel safe, what changes need to be made.
Our investigation found there was no video of Shannon's attack because the surveillance cameras on the floor didn't record.
Because of the age of the equipment, they lost their functionality.
Since our story aired, the VA has upgraded the system on the floor. It wouldn't allow us in to see for ourselves, citing privacy concerns, but did provide this photo.
It has playback features, it records in real time, so that issue was addressed.
Our original story spurred other nursing staff who requested anonymity to contact us, alleging several other attacks on staff in 2024 alone. The VA did provide that data, saying in 2024 there were 6 physical assaults that required medical attention on the mental health unit. We also spoke with overall Chief of Mental Health, Dr. Beck Bradley DeVino, to address staff concerns over a lack of high-level leadership involvement.
We want to especially take every opportunity to look and see when something occurs, what could we have done to prevent it and what can we do in the future to prevent it.
To this point, do you feel like those improvements have been made?
So I never want to say we've made all the improvements that we can possibly make, because I feel like we can always make more improvements.
The Atlanta VA says it's also ramped up hiring, with plans to onboard 19 new police officers by February and to add more nursing staff to the mental health floor.
Our vacancy rate is less than 15% at this point.
Dr. Miller says that's the lowest vacancy rate he's seen in his 15-year tenure with the Atlanta VA, adding they're adding more de-escalation training too.
We placed a lot of emphasis on making sure that we get all of the staff trained again.
And it will now be mandatory for everyone on the mental health floor, addressing concerns that some staffers had previously opted out.
It's a change from the old process with the waivers. If you're not physically able to engage, preserve the safety of veterans and staff, you cannot be on the mental health.
The two leaders acknowledging room for growth, hoping the new changes are a step in the right direction. Savannah Levins, 11Alive News investigates.
Straight ahead, affordable housing exists in Atlanta, but some families say they are being shut out.
I work 6 days a week and I make $10 an hour.
After the break, Rebecca Lindstrom shows us why even those who can afford monthly payments still face significant challenges. Welcome back. Now, despite a surge in affordable housing developments across Atlanta, many residents still tell us that they find themselves locked out. Last year, 11Alive News covered at least 6 different ribbon-cutting ceremonies celebrating new affordable housing projects. But even those who can afford the monthly payments face challenges, and experts say construction alone won't solve the problem. Senior investigative reporter Rebecca Lindstrom explains.
Cut. I started this story trying to understand how Atlanta could have so many ribbon cuttings to celebrate new, affordable housing.
We want housing to be affordable in all of the districts,
but never seem to have enough.
We really see ourselves as trying to help communities solve problems.
That's Joel Reed with Gorman & Company, a developer with 4 projects in various stages, including Sweet Auburn Grand with more than 100 units for people making 80% area median income or less. In real words, that's someone making about $60,000 a year.
Police officers, our teachers.
According to the U.S. Census Bureau, Atlanta has only half of the units needed for people at that income level.
I work 6 days a week and I make $10 an hour.
Well, our investigation found 18% of those affordable units were created in the past 5 years. Jaqueen Wilson says those ribbon cuttings don't bring her hope.
I feel like it's for other people, but not for me.
So if you were to apply for an apartment right now, what would be the main barrier to getting that application approved?
Besides my credit score?
Wilson lives in a motel and pays about $1,200 a month. It's enough to afford one of those affordable units.
I think my credit score is probably like 400, and they look at that now, so that would definitely stop me.
Even though she pays on time, rent at a motel isn't the kind of bill that gets reported to credit agencies, so she is going to have to think outside the box.
If you're paying auto insurance, talk to them. Ask them to report to the credit bureau. Talk to your cell phone provider.
So they have the ability to report, it just might not be part of their natural process.
Right. So they need to see a history of making good payments on time.
You can also work with a bank that offers secure credit cards, even if it's just $500. Get the card, put it in a cup, fill it with water, and then put it in the freezer. That'll keep you from making any impulse purchases and help rebuild your credit.
Joel Reed says, yeah, their units have minimum standards, and a bad credit score can keep someone out. But he says projects like these operate on a thin margin. They need reliable tenants to have the money to keep up with repairs.
So if you have one tenant that doesn't pay $1,000 a month and it takes a year or two to evict them, that potentially put your project in jeopardy.
And even with their rental standards, there is plenty of need.
Well, our first project we opened was residences at Westview. We basically opened full, meaning we had applicants for every one of our units, and we have 350 people on the wait list.
That's why Wilson says this problem will take more than construction to fix. In Atlanta, Rebecca Lindstrom, 11Alive News investigates.
After the break, turning to this story, dozens of people injured or killed in high-speed chases right here in Georgia. Zach Merchant shows us why one mother is now suing a state agency after one of those chases ended in a deadly crash. Welcome back. Internal agency reports 11Alive News investigates obtained show from 2019 to 2023, Georgia Department of Public Safety personnel were involved in thousands of vehicle pursuits, and more than half involved a crash. Zach Merchant shows us why a mother is now suing.
In 2022, a Georgia State Patrol trooper spots a Jeep on I-85 near Cleveland Avenue, allegedly speeding. When the Jeep doesn't pull over, the trooper chases. Minutes later, dashcam video 11Alive News investigates obtained shows another GSP trooper ends the pursuit.
The whole car is ripped apart.
The trooper used what's known as a pit maneuver, deliberately bumping the fleeing vehicle in an attempt to stop it. Shakina Clotter's son, Amarian, was inside the car.
I can never forget the day.
Amarian died in the crash. So did the other man in the car with him, according to GSP's case file.
This is a domino effect. None of those boys didn't have to lose their life.
Clotter is now suing the Department of Public Safety, alleging the agency negligently violated its own internal policies on pursuits and the use of force.
I don't feel like it was fair.
The Department of Public Safety declined to answer questions on camera, but in a legal filing, defended the troopers' conduct, writing that they committed no negligent or otherwise tortious act or omission.
Now, that case is still working its way through the Fulton County court system, but our analysis of GSP data shows that dangerous crashes are not uncommon outcomes to their chases.
A 2023 report from the Police Executive Research Forum, a law enforcement think tank, recommended pursuits only take place when a violent crime has been committed and the suspect poses an imminent threat to commit another violent crime. But Department of Public Safety pursuit policy gives troopers much broader authority to chase. Internal reports 11Alive News investigates obtained show from 2019 to 2023, Department of Public Safety personnel, almost always GSP troopers, engaged in 6,823 chases. More than half involved crashes. 1,326 people were injured. 73 died. In response to previous 11Alive News investigates reporting on agency chase policy, a spokesperson sent a statement saying, in part, the Department of Public Safety protects Georgians by ensuring our members use good judgment and act within the bounds of policy and law. Amarian Clotter's mother has a different message.
I understand that the pit maneuver can be important in certain areas, in certain cases. Maybe if there's a bolo about someone that's being kidnapped or a terrorist or Amber Alert, something like that, but not just for a speed check. There was other ways that this could have been solved. I don't have my son anymore.
In Atlanta, Zach Merchant, 11Alive News investigates.
Thank you so much for joining us for this special edition of Inside 11Alive News Investigates. If you have a concern in your community that you want our team to look into, you can reach out to us at 404-873-9111. Again, that's 404-873-9111. We will see you next time.